Chapter 7 of the Story of the Greeks. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Story of the Greeks by H. A. Guerber. Chapter 7. Theseus visits the Labyrinth. On coming back from the quest for the Golden Fleece, the heroes returned to their own homes, where they continued their efforts to make their people happy. Theseus, one of the heroes, returned to Athens, and founded a yearly festival in honor of the goddess Athene. This festival was called Pan-Athenaea, which means all the worshippers of Athene. It proved a great success, and was a bond of union among the people, who thus learned each other's customs and manners, and grew more friendly than if they had always stayed at home. Theseus is one of the best known among all the Greek heroes. Besides going with Jason in the Argo, he rid his country of many robbers, and sailed to Crete. There he visited Minos, the king, who, having some time before conquered the Athenians, forced them to send him every year a shipload of youths and maidens to feed to a monster which he kept in the Labyrinth. To free his country from this tribute, Theseus, of his own free will, went on board the ship. When he reached Crete, he went first into the Labyrinth and killed the monster with his sword. Then he found his way out of the maze by means of a long thread which the king's daughter had given him. One end of it he carried with him as he entered, while the other end was fastened to the door. His old father, Aegeus, who had allowed him to go only after much persuasion, had told him to change the black sails of his vessel for white if he were lucky enough to escape. Theseus promised to do so, but he entirely forgot it in the joy of his return. Aegeus, watching for the vessel day after day, saw it coming back at last, and when the sunlight fell upon the black sails, he felt sure that his son was dead. His grief was so great at this loss that he fell from the rock where he was standing down into the sea, and was drowned. In memory of him, the body of water near the rock is still known as the Aegean Sea. When Theseus reached Athens, and heard of his father's grief and sudden death, his heart was filled with sorrow and remorse, and he loudly bewailed the carelessness which had cost his father's life. Theseus now became king of Athens, and ruled his people very wisely for many years. He took part in many adventures and battles, lost 2 wives and a beloved son, and in his grief and old age became so cross and harsh that his people ceased to love him. They finally grew so tired of his cruelty that they all rose up against him, drove him out of the city, and forced him to take up his abode on the island of Scyros. Then, fearing that he might return unexpectedly, they told the king of the island to watch him night and day, and to seize the first good opportunity to get rid of him. In obedience to these orders, the king escorted Theseus wherever he went, and one day, when they were both walking along the edge of a tall cliff, he suddenly pushed Theseus over it. Unable to defend or save himself, Theseus fell on some sharp rocks far below, and was instantly killed. The Athenians rejoiced greatly when they heard of his death, but they soon forgot his harshness, remembered only his bravery and all the good he had done them in his youth, and regretted their ingratitude. Long after, as you will see, his body was carried to Athens, and buried not far from the Acropolis, which was a fortified hill or citadel in the midst of the city. Here the Athenians built a temple over his remains, and worshipped him as a god. While Theseus was thus first fighting for his subjects, and then quarrelling with them, one of his companions, the hero Hercules, or Heracles, went back to the Peloponnesus, where he had been born. There his descendants, the Heraclidae, soon began fighting with the Pelopidæ for the possession of the land. After much warfare, the Heraclidae were driven away and banished to Thessaly, where they were allowed to remain only upon condition that they would not attempt to renew their quarrel with the Pelopidæ for 100 years. End of chapter 7.